Lieutenant General Marcus J. Reynolds had traveled this highway dozens of times. Georgia's Route 180 was familiar, long stretches of road cutting through quiet fields, small gas stations, and forgotten towns. Today, however, was different. His GPS suddenly rerouted. He frowned, pulling onto a gravel rest stop near an abandoned gas station to check his map. As he reached for his encrypted military phone, he noticed something in the rearview mirror flashing red and blue lights. A sheriff's vehicle had pulled up behind him. No sirens, just lights. Reynolds stiffened. He wasn't worried. He had done nothing wrong. The driver's door swung open. Out stepped a tall woman with blonde hair tied in a tight bun. Aviator sunglasses hid her eyes. One hand rested on her holster. No greeting. No request for ID. Instead, tap. 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 Her knuckles rapped hard against the window. Reynolds rolled it down halfway. Afternoon, officer. Her tone was sharp. What are you doing out here? Reynolds kept his voice steady. Pulled over to check my GPS. The officer squinted past him, scanning the interior of his car. Where you headed? Her tone wasn't curious. It was controlling. Reynolds glanced at her badge. Wilburn. He answered calmly. Just correcting my route. Wilburn stepped back. Then, she unclipped the strap on her holster. Step out of the vehicle. Reynolds frowned. For checking my GPS. Wilburn's jaw tightened. This is private land. We've had problems here before. You fit the profile. The profile, Reynolds exhaled slowly. He had handled high-stress situations before, Iraq, Bosnia, even Washington, D.C. But this wasn't standard protocol. Reynolds kept his voice even. I'll step out, officer. But to be clear, I have done nothing wrong. Wilburn narrowed her eyes. You're being uncooperative. Reynolds frowned. I've complied with everything you've asked. Wilburn's hand remained on her holster, hands on the trunk. Reynolds hesitated. Ma'am, I am a federal officer. My identification is inside my car. Please allow me to retrieve it. Wilburn's grip tightened. I said hands on the trunk. Before Reynolds could respond, she grabbed his arm, twisted it, and slammed his palm against the hot metal. Gasps. A woman at the gas station raised her phone, recording. A teenager in a passing car had already hit record on his phone. Reynolds remained calm. I respectfully request that you call your supervisor. Wilburn tightened the cuffs around his wrists. You don't make requests. You wait. Reynolds took a slow breath. This was bad. He wasn't just a soldier. He was a 3-star general, and right now, this officer had no idea who she had just arrested. Reynolds kept his composure as Wilburn tightened the handcuffs. I'm Lieutenant General Marcus Reynolds, United States Army. My identification ice inside my briefcase in the car. Wilburn snorted. You expect me to believe that? Reynolds let the silence answer. You don't have to believe it. Just check. Instead, Wilburn grabbed her radio. Dispatch, I have a suspicious male, possibly armed. Reynolds tensed. I am not carrying a weapon. Wilburn muttered. You people usually are. Silence. Reynolds felt his stomach tight. You people. A few feet away, the teenager recording the scene zoomed in on something in the back seat. A neatly folded military jacket. 3 gold stars stitched into the collar. The boy whispered to his father, Dad, he's Army. Look at his jacket. His father's expression shifted. The crowd of onlookers grew. Some whispered, some recorded, some waited. They weren't just watching, they were witnessing. And Wilburn, she had no idea her biggest mistake was about to unfold. Reynolds kept his breathing steady. He had faced war zones, political battles, and classified operations, yet here he was, handcuffed on the side of the road like a common criminal. More people were stopping. More phones were recording. Wilburn, still oblivious, spoke into her radio. I need backup. Suspect is resisting. Reynolds finally allowed himself a small smirk. Resisting? He hadn't moved a muscle. That's when another police cruiser pulled up. Out stepped Deputy Lamar Boyd. A seasoned officer, mid-50s, salt and pepper beard. He immediately noticed the scene: the handcuffed man, the military jacket in the back seat, the uneasy crowd. Boyd's gut told him something was wrong. He walked over, his voice calm. "Sir, may I ask your name?" Reynolds met his gaze. "Lieutenant General Marcus Reynolds, United States Army." Boyd froze. A 3-star general? His eyes darted to Wilburn. "Did you check his ID?" Wilburn hesitated. I didn't think it was real." Boyd's expression darkened. Without another word, he stepped away and pulled out his phone. He made a call. To someone much higher up. Minutes later, 3 black SUVs appeared on the horizon, approaching fast. Wilburn blinked. "What the?" Boyd muttered under his breath. "Oh, you messed up big time." The 3 black SUVs rolled to a stop, engines humming, the doors swung open in unison. Out stepped Colonel Aaron Gaines, broad-shouldered, stern-faced, a man whose very presence commanded attention. Behind him, 2 other officers in full military dress. The crowd fell silent, even Wilburn stiffened. Gaines didn't acknowledge her. Didn't acknowledge Boyd. He walked straight to Reynolds, his voice crisp. "Sir, are you all right?" Reynolds exhaled. "Fine. Just bruised pride." Gaines's jaw clenched. Then, without hesitation, he reached down and unlatched Reynolds's cuffs himself. The metal clattered against the pavement. Wilburn gasped. "Wait, you can't just..." Gaines's eyes snapped to her. "Officer, do you have any idea who this man is?" Wilburn's face paled. Gaines turned to Boyd. "Who's in charge here?" Boyd pointed. "She initiated the stop." Gaines's expression hardened. "Officer Wilburn, you just unlawfully detained a 3-star general of the United States Army." Wilburn opened her mouth. Closed it. The crowd shifted. People murmured. Phones kept recording. Then, a final police vehicle pulled up and out stepped Sheriff Roger Nix. One look at the scene and he knew, this was bad. Sheriff Roger Nix slammed his door shut and adjusted his belt. He wasn't a man who liked surprises, and this was a damn big one. His eyes swept the scene: a black man standing with 3 military officers. A shaken deputy standing near an empty pair of handcuffs. A crowd recording every second. He turned to Boyd. "Somebody want to tell me what the hell is going on?" Boyd gestured to Wilburn. "She made the stop." Nix's gaze hardened. "On what grounds?" Wilburn hesitated. "He was on private property. He fit the profile of..." Nix cut her off. "Did you run his tags?" Silence. "No." Nix's jaw tightened. "Did you check his ID?" Wilburn shifted. "I didn't think it was real." A few gasps rippled through the crowd. Nix slowly turned to Reynolds. "Sir, I sincerely apologize for this." Reynolds nodded but said nothing. Gaines, however, wasn't as quiet. His voice was like a blade. "Sheriff, this officer detained a high-ranking U.S. Army official without cause. She refused to verify his ID. She assumed he was armed. And she referred to him as, 'you people.'" Nick's stomach sank. This wasn't just bad, this was career-ending bad, and the worst part, the whole world was about to see it. Sheriff Nix exhaled sharply. He wasn't just dealing with a bad stop, he was dealing with a PR disaster. The crowd had doubled, the phones were still recording, and standing before him was a 3-star general who had every reason to escalate this situation, but he hadn't. That alone told Nix everything he needed to know. He turned back to Wilburn. "Do you understand what you've done?" Wilburn swallowed hard. "Sir, I thought..." "No, you didn't think." His voice was sharp. ***, you acted on bias. You ignored protocol. And you just humiliated a decorated U.S. Army general. Wilburn's face burned red. "I was just following procedure." Gaines stepped forward. "No, officer. You abused your badge," the crowd murmured. Some shook their heads. Reynolds finally spoke, his voice steady. "Sheriff, I don't need an apology. I need accountability." A sharp statement. One that hung in the air. Nix knew what had to happen next. He turned to Boyd. "Take her badge and gun." Wilburn's eyes went wide. "Wait, what?" Boyd hesitated. "Sir, do it." Wilburn shook her head in disbelief. "This is a mistake," Nix cut her off. "No, officer. The mistake was yours." As Boyd reached for her badge, the crowd erupted in whispers. The video was still rolling, and it wasn't just an arrest gone wrong. It was a reckoning. Wilburn's hands trembled as Boyd unfastened her badge. She had walked onto this scene with absolute power now, in front of a growing crowd. She was powerless. Boyd took her gun next. Wilburn stepped back, shaking her head. "This isn't fair." He was acting suspicious. Gaines spoke coldly. "Suspicious? For what?" "Checking his GPS." Wilburn glared at him. "I didn't know who he was." Reynolds, arms crossed, raised an eyebrow. "So if I wasn't a general, this treatment would have been acceptable?" Wilburn froze. The crowd murmured. Someone said, "Exactly." Sheriff Nix had heard enough. He turned to Reynolds. "Sir, I promise you, this will be handled." Reynolds studied him, then finally nodded. "Good. Because this isn't just about me." His voice carried, low, steady, but powerful. "It's about every black man who gets treated like this. Every time an officer decides they don't believe who we are." Silence. Even Wilburn looked shaken. The weight of her mistake was crushing down on her. She had thought she was in control, but now, she was on the wrong side of history, and the world was watching. The next morning, Cole's phone buzzed incessantly. Text messages, missed calls, notifications, his inbox was flooded. It wasn't just friends and family reaching out. Strangers, journalists, and even people from his past were commenting on the viral video. It was everywhere. "Dad, this is crazy," his daughter said, holding up her phone. "People are sharing the video everywhere. Look, someone just called you a hero." Cole sighed, massaging his temples. While he was glad people were standing up for his daughter, he wasn't sure how he felt about the viral attention. It was one thing to stand up for your kid, it was another to have the whole world watching. A few minutes later, his phone rang again. It was his old friend, Marcus. "Cole, man, I saw the video." "That was incredible," Marcus said, his voice full of admiration. "I don't know about incredible, Marcus. I just did what any father would do," Cole replied, still processing everything. "I get it. But the thing is, not everyone would do that," Marcus said. "That cop? He's done that before. He's known for being an asshole. What you did was step up, not just for your daughter, but for everyone who's ever been made to feel less than because of who they are." Cole paused, trying to let that sink in. He hadn't thought of it that way. Meanwhile, the story was making waves at the police department. Officers were talking. Some were applauding Cole's courage, while others were more concerned about Jenkins and the fallout. Cole had no idea what would happen next, but one thing was certain, this story was far from over. A few days later, the phone rang again. This time, it wasn't a friendly voice on the other end. "Mr. Cole? This is Lieutenant Martin from the police department. We need to talk." Cole's stomach churned. He knew what this was about. The viral video had caught the attention of not just the public, but the police department as well. Jenkins' actions were being scrutinized, and Cole was about to be pulled into something far more serious than he'd ever expected. "We're launching an internal investigation into Officer Jenkins' conduct. We're looking into his past interactions with citizens and whether his behavior was in line with department protocol," Lieutenant Martin explained. Cole could barely process the words. He knew that Jenkins had been a loose cannon for a while, but now it was official. "Things were escalating. I just want to be clear, Lieutenant," Cole said, his voice steady despite his nerves. "I didn't do anything special. I just stood up for my daughter. You know, because it was the right thing to do." "I understand, sir," Lieutenant Martin replied, "but your actions have triggered a broader conversation about the treatment of civilians. This is bigger than just one officer." After the call ended, Cole sat back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. The weight of what was happening hit him all at once. His decision to stand up for his daughter had spiraled into something he couldn't control. Soon, he would be thrust into the heart of an investigation that could change everything: his reputation, the police department, and the fate of Officer Jenkins. Would the department do the right thing? Would Jenkins face any consequences for his actions? Cole didn't know the answers, but he knew one thing for sure: this was just the beginning. The following morning, the storm hit. News outlets were flooded with the story. Cole had become the face of a nationwide conversation on police misconduct, but it wasn't just the media that was knocking on his door. The pressure to speak out was overwhelming. At 10 a.m., Cole found himself standing at the podium in front of a crowd of reporters, cameras flashing relentlessly. His mind raced, but his resolve remained steady. He knew this moment could define everything. "Mr. Cole, how do you feel about the viral video?" one reporter asked, the microphone hovering just inches from his face. "I feel proud of my daughter for having the courage to stand her ground," Cole replied, his voice calm yet firm. "What happened that day shouldn't have happened. But what's more important is that we can all learn from this. We can use this as an opportunity to push for change." Another reporter jumped in. "Officer Jenkins has been suspended, but some are questioning whether the department will actually take significant action. What's your stance on that?" Cole paused for a moment, weighing his words carefully. "I hope this isn't just about one officer. It's about the culture that allows this to happen in the first place. We need a system where accountability is real and change is constant." The questions continued to fly at him, each one designed to provoke, to get a reaction. But Cole didn't flinch. He knew that today wasn't just about defending his family. It was about starting a larger conversation that might be uncomfortable for some, but necessary for others. As the press conference came to a close, Cole realized something important. This was bigger than just him, bigger than his daughter. He was now part of a movement, one that could change the course of history. After the press conference, the world watched, and the tides began to turn. What had started as a single viral moment soon spiraled into a nationwide movement. The hashtag Justice for Chloe trended for weeks, and the conversation around police accountability gained momentum. People across the country rallied together, demanding change in their own communities. For Cole, the journey didn't stop at the podium. He received messages from every corner: supporters, activists, even strangers who had once felt powerless. They all shared stories of injustice, of things they had suffered in silence, waiting for someone to give them a voice. Chloe, too, became something of a symbol. She wasn't just the girl in the video anymore, she was the face of courage, of standing up in the face of adversity. Young girls from all walks of life sent messages, thanking her for showing them that their voices mattered, but there was still work to be done. Cole knew this wasn't going to be an easy road. The pressure was mounting, and not all the attention was positive. Some questioned his motives, some tried to discredit his story. The constant scrutiny weighed on him, but with each challenge, he found strength in his purpose. One evening, as he sat with Chloe in their living room reflecting on how much had changed in such a short time, Chloe spoke up. "Dad, do you think things will get better?" Cole smiled, his heart swelling with pride. "I know it will, Chloe. It's just going to take time, and it's going to take people like you. People willing to stand up and speak out." The doorbell rang, and Chloe jumped up to answer. Standing at the door was a woman holding a small box. "For you, Mr. Cole," she said, handing it over. Inside the box was a medal, engraved with the words, "Courage in Action." It was from a group of civil rights organizations, honoring Cole for his bravery and leadership. He looked at Chloe, their eyes meeting with silent understanding. This was just the beginning. If you believe in standing up for what's right and fighting for justice, make your voice heard today. Share this story and help spread the message that courage can change the world. Don't let this be the end, be part of the movement for equality, fairness, and accountability. Follow us for more powerful stories, and let's continue to inspire change, one step at a time.